we're going to kick off with, this is a little different form factor for us in terms of the sponsor presentation. So instead of a canned PowerPoint presentation, we've got Lucas LaFontaine, who does business development with Infinity Energy and works closely with builders all across the country here to have a little bit of a conversation with myself. And Ken Peterson here with Shea Homes, who knows a lot about solar and is going to provide a little perspective. So Lucas, let's start with your offers. What do you guys provide in the solar and smart energy space?
Absolutely. So Infinity Energy, we're a full turnkey contractor that provides from the roof down, from solar, batteries, and EV chargers for your guys' communities, and have solutions that are customizable from pre-construction to even after construction when your clients are saying, hey, we may want a little bit more, or hey, we're adding a new Tesla or an electric Hummer. What else do I need to make sure that that's taken care of?
Yeah. So the pieces and parts that you guys offer of the smart energy system, what are they specifically?
Solar panels, battery, and the electrical charging.
Yep. And now, how long have you guys been at this business?
So we've been doing this for about 15 years.
Uh-huh. And how long have you been working with builders?
Builders have been about, myself personally, probably going on a decade.
So talk to us a little bit about your process for working builders. What's the front end? How does the conversation start from a sales perspective? And then once there's a deal done, where do you go from there?
Certainly. So like Ken, if Ken was to come to us and say, hey, we're interested in solar in this community, from the very beginning, if you have never even looked into solar, we go through a design process that helps you spec the right system size for your home and look at the pricing that's going to be attractive to your community and solving the problems that your customers may have, and then educating your sales staff, educating your construction crews of what those processes are going to be to just simplify it from day one.
Yeah, so talk about the pricing piece, because that could be complicated, right?
Absolutely.
Because there's like the top line price, and then there are all these tax incentives and stuff. So, I mean, are you guys a knowledge base in that area? And there's code-driven stuff or not code-driven stuff, depending on the locality. What sort of expertise do you guys have in that area?
Absolutely. California is a market that we get to cheat in, right? They tell us what we get to do, but every other market's going to be different. Utility rates, how the power is consumed, the incentives that are available. And when you look at a community and you didn't anticipate a $10,000 to $15,000 cost for a home in regards to electrification, well, we have a process to go through the tax credits and incentives for the builders to be able to take advantage of. But then there's also the financing side of it as well, to where there is no burden to the communities and the developer.
So you bring the financing into the equation. So not
Correct.
only do you have the knowledge base, but you have ecosystem partners who help create a complete solution for the builder and the home buyer.
Absolutely.
Talk about other elements of the business planning side of things. So I know we're going to talk about how you guys do your installation work and coordinate on the construction front, but there's a front end, as we talked about yesterday, the merchandising and marketing piece. Talk about that. How do you help builders with that marketing piece?
It's important for your guys' customers if solar's a hot topic, energy storage, EVs are a hot topic. Us providing you with the collateral and the marketing to help educate your buyers, right? What is electrification? And we have an internal marketing team that customizes that towards your guys' community to simplify that, to give you the ad resources to deploy.
Talk about the construction piece, because when we were chatting earlier, it sounds like you guys have really developed a methodology for efficiency there, and I'm sure there's a lot of folks out here like, is this going to mess up and disrupt stuff? And maybe that's part of the smile on your face as you're worried about it.
Well, no, I mean, some of the challenges are for high volume builders. You have a community, you offer 5 plans, you have 140 lots. They face various directions.
Yep.
And so the pre-planning is so important because a certain home on a certain home site may not be able to take solar.
Right.
And so you have to educate the customer not only in the solar packages that are available, but the orientation of the home and the community.
Yeah, that is super important, and that's a part of our design process with the developer at the beginning and the builder at the beginning side is, here is what can fit on what model home. And when we look at our construction side, it's what we pride ourselves on, is making it simple for you. That way you don't have to worry about another trade on the site that's going to delay you or mess anything else up.
Yep.
Is we phase it as you phase. When a home's getting dried in, we want to make sure that our racking's on the roof, that we have pre-wiring done. As soon as those homes are ready to have panels installed, typically you're rolling out another phase that's about to get dried in. So we have our crews essentially living in your neighborhood as this development's going on and phasing along with your phases for all the steps in regards
So
to
what about the design piece that Ken's talking about, though? I mean, how do you work with builders on house on a specific plan, orientation to the sun? There aren't any trees here in Arizona, but there are trees elsewhere in the world. I mean, how do you work through that stuff? Do you guys work in the digital design? So one of the things you don't know about Shay is this guy's been doing so much digital marketing and sales work, and he actually has the ability for the consumer before they select a home to position it on a lot, right? And an actual model, and to see what living like that is. I don't know whether there's an ability to integrate the solar piece into that sort of design scheme, Ken, where it could be like, hey, if you position it this way, you're not going to be able to do solar. If you position it this way, it could be solar ready. Would you work with builders at that level?
If Ken told me he needed it, we'd find a way to make it work.
Are you a software salesman?
That's my day job.
Okay. I mean, it's a fascinating point, because when you do community VRs and you place a home on a home site, a part of that VR, because you're using the longitude and latitude of the home, you see the orientation of the sun.
Right.
And it's a little bit of a challenge for the consumer, because somebody could come in and say, hey, I want a 6 kW system. We have to tell them, well, you need to buy a bigger home. Because we don't have.
That's not a bad thing to tell them, is it?
That's a really good thing, more revenue, but it's all about the roof space.
And to your point, aesthetics is a big key factor when you're building these beautiful communities. And that's where we do, in that design process, do share with you the top tier products that have that aesthetics, right? We're not putting up your old school silver frame, blue cell panels. It's typically black on black now. You have micro inverters that's all hidden and supposed to be integrated, right? We talk about integrated solutions. We really try and classify ourselves as kind of a techstruction company, because technology is a big part of what we do today. Haven't gotten to the point of 3D rendering.
I'm writing that down. Techstruction companies.
I'm like,
The
that's
techstruction,
the new buzzword of
It's
the
the
conference.
new, right?
Summit.
Techstruction.
That's a good one.
I like it.
We have to bring technologies. Solar's a technology. Batteries are a technology.
Yeah.
And how we integrate that into the home and integrating it into your guys' plans is an integral part of your process and ours.
Yeah, so you've been working with builders for 10 years. You got a bunch of them that are customers, right?
Correct.
You said 10 of the top 20?
Yeah, 10 of the top 20 we work with.
And you feel like you're deeply penetrated with those top 10? I mean, are you in multiple divisions?
We're in multiple states, multiple divisions. I mean, we're operating in about 8 states currently. In all 8 states, we have builder relationships.
Yeah. And why did they start working with you, and why do they continue to work with you?
To start working with us and continue to work with us is because of that simplification process, right? We have the crews on the site. We're there to make sure that we follow through. There's a single point of contact rather than going through the finance company, then who subcontracted it. Infinity Energy is the stopgap, right?
Yep.
We're there from the beginning, we're there to the end.
Yep.
And even with finance partners that we use, you're going through us.
And what about this? The money.
The money.
Do they make money?
You can make money. Obviously, when you look at a community, we give you a price with the goal of marking that up so you can make some money from a cash purchase, or from a financing perspective. There's financing to where you come out of pocket nothing, and the finance entities typically give kickbacks.
Right.
On top of that, you have the tax credits and incentives, and local municipalities do give cash rebates still.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see the uptick of incentives creeping back up because of this new electrification process with EVs, right? It's a heavy cost burden, and it's a big burden on the grid. So incentives are going to start rolling out in that aspect.
Yeah. So it's kind of a found revenue category for a builder, right? Because most builders before 10 years ago weren't really playing in this category.
Correct.
And now there's some level of revenue, and it could be substantial, that's realized,
Yeah,
right?
you can easily make some revenue off of adding solar to your homes. But to Ken's point, is making sure that it's a home that is available, right?
Yeah.
Does it make sense? we have to evaluate the market, evaluate the home to where you're not offering a customer something that doesn't make financial sense for them even.
Yep.
Putting a,
On your battery systems, are you installing 2 meters?
it depends on the local municipality if we have to. For the most case, we don't have to. It's just your one electric meter, and they're called bi-directional meters for that purpose of energy storage and solar and energy from the grid.
Yep.
The battery, the brain of the battery is the transfer switch that controls that flow of energy.
Yep. All right. So I'll come back to the speakers. I want to go to the purpose here. So I think this story starts about 18 months ago when I was working on the design and production side of our process guide, and I started to reach out to builders and integrators about some of the challenges and disconnects. And it became pretty clear pretty quickly that the tech piece was getting involved in the construction planning too late in the game, and that there was a lot of rework resulting. There was a lot of inesthetic design in new construction that was happening, and I just wasn't satisfied that this was going to be the way it would be forever. And dug in some more and understood that what design of technology is for a lot of high volume builders was stick-ems on a bird's eye view, and that formal construction drawings weren't being done. And digging in further, it seems like one of the big reasons was they weren't required. Your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing drawings and your structural plans need to be reviewed by the folks that approve the homes, not so for technology. So that's not I mean, I understand it. It's an understandable reason. It's not necessarily a good reason for there not be technology specs. So we've been working on this in conversations, and at last year's event in Louisville, the journey kind of started on the luxury side, and it's moved over here into the high volume space. And so we want to try to make some more progress on this. We're going to look at the benefits, look at what could this look like, what all is involved, and I'll float some idealized processes, a straw man that could be beaten up. We'll get some feedback from Ken and Jason on what they're doing right now and what they think of a different way of approaching this. And then we're going to hear from folks on the technology industry, from manufacturers to integrators to, I don't know what you guys consider yourselves, a service provider of some sort, to what they are doing right now in this realm and what they can do. And there's somebody who's in this room who's not in this room, which is Sean Weiner with Bravis, who's next door actually talking about this topic in Lux, and we double booked him. So I'm going to represent Sean here with some slides and information. So that's the flow. And let me introduce all of the presenters here. So Ken was with us yesterday and joined me here for the sponsor presentation. He's the VP of Sales and Marketing at TecHome, knows a lot about everything. On our other builder is Jason Brown with Ascent Builders, and he's brought a good team out here and been a regular with us, and I dragged him up on stage, and he's ready to provide us with some good hot takes on what we're going to go over. Brett Jacob has been on stage. He's the Director of Builder Services with Nortec.
Nice.
With NICE. And as you know from his presentation on the keynote yesterday, there's a suite of process supports that NICE has put in place and this could be another area where they range into because they're so service oriented. Ron with Technology Design Associates is an integrator with multiple locations here in the Western US who's developing design and engineering services. And then Frank DeFilippis is a former custom integrator who's leading the charge on dish and dish fibers play in this installed system space, both single family and multifamily. And he's a knowledgeable dude, so we got him up here on stage as well. So that's the panel. So this was not presented last night in terms of the Builder Playbook research, and but it's really interesting. We floated this question. I'm going to have to read some of this stuff, unfortunately. So the question actually reads, what high volume builders are, it basically says how interested would you be in a service where their design and engineering of the smart technology play and executes project management. And we've got a look at that for the lower volume builders and higher volume builders, and the high volume builders are the most interested. 61% very interested. I think that's another 26% that are somewhat interested. So that was very interesting to see that there was, in concept, an interest in learning more about that. So that was heartening. It made me want to keep pushing on this. And so I want to kind of walk through what we think it looks like. I'm trying to make this real by making an acronym. Design, engineering, and production planning is what the acronym is that of this stuff, this area of process collaboration that we're working on here. So features and benefits, and I'm going to start with the benefits. It's like other subsystems in the house. If you do the design work up front and it's thought through, you're going to have better execution on the installation and construction side of things. And ultimately, that's going to result in higher quality for your buyers. And that's important to everybody here. The buyer pays the bill, buyer gets higher quality, you're able to charge more money. Avoidance of rework and unesthetic design. I don't know if there is such a word as unesthetic, but I'm using it. I think the classic here is the technology is installed, but there's not power in the right places. And so, and the sequencing on the construction site is out of order, so then there's rework on the power. Or there's not adequate spaces and pathways to get things in. So those are some of the classic rework side of things. And then what that ends up being is like, it becomes more of a retrofit installation, right? Which we all know retrofit versus designed in, built in is not gonna look as good. It's gonna look plastered on and it's just not gonna have the look and feel that the buyer's looking for. So I think that upfront design and engineering and production planning can generate that benefit. Efficient assignment of job site work. So if the system is designed, the builder's in a position to make good calls on the most efficient way to have this installation work. It may be that a lot of the low voltage wire pulling should be done by an electrical contractor. I don't know how you feel about this, Ron, but it could be in some cases that it's added to their scope of work, or that somebody else on the job site at the right time, because you don't need to be licensed to pull low voltage wire. Well, framing contractor could put...
Depends on your location.
Yeah. But potentially, even a framing contractor could pull the low voltage. So you could start to get efficiencies here if it's designed in up front and it's not being slapped on after the fact on the job site, and have money savings and time savings result from that. This next benefit, better sell-through of the tech value. We have a lot of systems that people can buy on a retrofit basis and they see in stores. They don't understand what the value is of the behind-the-wall stuff, the built-in stuff, because we can't show them. We just talk about products, but we don't show them reference engineering drawings, which then they say, well, now I understand why it's 20% more, because I can see that I'm going to get value, and I see that there's work and thinking that's gone into this versus builders marking up something that I could get at Best Buy. So I think that you get better sell-through and take rates because it makes sense. The value proposition makes sense. And then the other thing is that we can have profitability across the supply chain. So if we realize these efficiencies, there's more money to be had for the builder. There's more money to be had based on value added for the different trade contractors, and probably there's more money to be made for the vendors because more stuff is selling through. So those are the benefits, and I like the way SmartArt makes a star out of that. So if you have a 5-benefit thing, you somehow get a 5-star thing. Somebody really thought that through.
You did.
I didn't think it through. SmartArt saves me on a regular basis. Okay, so I said Sean isn't here. Sean and I have been talking about this and working about it for a long time, but I'll give you this slide later. I don't think I'll read it out loud. I think his basic thesis there, the most important piece, is his belief that 20% of the total system cost, there's a 20% savings that can be realized in the total system cost with the upfront engineering. He doesn't really address in here the dollar upside in terms of sell-through of the options, but this is really more about the cost side of things. And I think his second or third bullet point here is about collaboration among the trades, and that it's a technology general contractor perspective, not that they're doing all of the work, but they are coordinating with the mechanical and electrical trades especially to make sure that these designs are efficient and make sense. So I think that that's a key point in Sean's soapbox item. Let me show you this in terms of like what would a plan look like. And this is a straw man and folks can beat it up. But I'll dig in a little more deeply here. So incorporate all standard tech in all upgrade packages that are projected to achieve a 50% or more take rate into house plans in your plan library. Detail the following: location of spaces, pathways, and other structural accommodations required. Equipment, ventilation, and cooling requirements. This can be another area where there's a hell of a lot of rework because we can't take the heat out of an equipment rack. It's more on the luxury side, but it can happen in high volume as well. That's a really expensive area of rework. Exact placement of active components on or in the wall, ceiling, floor, or structural components. So we've all seen this. Sometimes keypads are at the wrong height. Sometimes outlets are at the wrong height. There's an outlet at the baseboard level and a TV is drawing power from that, so then we have to have some sort of crappy wire mold solution on it. So it's like we've got to get more specific and particular about where we want these things to land. That can happen in construction drawings. The wire and cabling plan including necessary hardwired or plug-in line voltage electrical connections. That goes back to that rework thing. Power over Ethernet feeds, Ethernet, coaxial, and other connections for telecommunications schedule. I don't know whether we can get this far, but plans should specify which tech elements, typically infrastructure, need to be installed during or just after framing of the house structure, which will be installed at the finishing stage, which will be programmed or otherwise activated or commissioned after the finishing stage, and which will be commissioned or activated post-close. Now, the integrators and the trades are going to have to provide a lot of this information, but we need to know this stuff, right? So that things happen in the right order efficiently and things don't get out of sync. Importantly, and it says 2, but it should say 3, if add-ons and changes to the tech features during the construction process are allowed, establish firm cutoffs and communications requirements for sales and customer success. So that's a look at what the plan might constitute. I'm actually going to stop there and kind of throw it open for discussion, because I see some shaking of heads, I see some nodding of heads, and I'd love to just get some feedback on this idea of what a plan looks like, or what constitutes a plan.
So I would start with the fact that if you're going to offer tech solutions, especially in the high vol, you really do need proper engineering up front. It's an investment. The reason it doesn't get done is most guys don't want to spend the money for it, but the reality is if you don't spend the money for it, you're going to spend the money for it later. And to get it done up front, you're going to really give yourself better opportunity to really streamline the process during construction, keep from getting anything that's slowing down your projects, and you're also going to get better pass-through sales capabilities to all of your upgrade packages for your clients. So in the end, spending that time and money up front and getting everything properly engineered, getting proper construction drawings, and getting some pre-designed packaging and everything else that you can offer as an upsell opportunity pays for itself over and over again, just by having that capability for those projects.
So what do you think, that's the conceptual at the high level. I think we're all starting to sync on it, and then now it's like, specifically, what is it? Does this make sense?
That makes total sense.
Overkill?
That makes total sense. The biggest thing that we have to engineer is the infrastructure itself. So the thing that everybody still hasn't caught on to, and I deal with builders in all different markets and all different levels, is that technology is no longer an option, it is now a utility, specifically for networking and audio and video and those things. There isn't a house that goes in that the client doesn't want Wi-Fi. It should be the same as power. If you don't already have it planned and built into your home, then you're missing a utility. So it's like, let's build a house without water. Doesn't make any sense.
I'm with
right?
you. Those are that's the motherhood and apple pie.
Yeah.
But we got to start working on the specifics. Is this too much? Does there need to be?
As far as engineering is concerned, absolutely not. You should have all of those details handled.
What do the builders think?
Well, you could probably add more items to that list.
Okay.
Because, for the builders out there, a lot of us have our sales team take a mini floor plan, right, and draw on it and say, hey, you need this over here. And so we looked at that and said, there has to be a better way to do it. And then the timing of that. So, for us, the design studio process, the high voltage, low voltage has to happen before framing. Because what this is illustrating is the impact. If you can identify one location for your structural can, some buyers need 2 or 3. Well, the framers have to frame that in. We're designing in now AV rooms that have proper ventilation. That includes your HVAC provider. The whole infrastructure to manage. And you're looking at 2 sometimes different trades, because you have electricians and low voltage providers, and they have to communicate. So we took a real strong approach that if the integrator has the ability to do both high voltage and low voltage, it's their responsibility to come up with the structural drawings well in advance of construction. If we don't have that, we hire a third party. That 20% savings, that's what we spend, 20% to hire a third party company to provide that documentation. What we've learned is tremendous amount of savings on rework, where the customer's like, I didn't know. So I think it's spot on, and it's something that I think we need to adopt, and your point's well taken. Low voltage now is a utility. Mm-hmm. You have to have that infrastructure, and especially with Dish. I mean, we're running conduit because we don't know. The customer's not making a decision, prior to us framing the home, hey, I'm going to have, wired or wireless service to the home.
Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with what Ken and the rest of the panel said. But one thing I'd add maybe on the section about the plans is that not only do we need to specify which items are going to be installed at which stage, but also who is doing it. Because on some of these elements, there could be an option. Like we said, maybe it's the electrician that's installing it. Maybe the HVAC contractor is installing the thermostat. Maybe it's the integrator. and figuring those scopes of work out and making sure we understand who's doing which components is important.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great point because motorized blinds, it's always a war between the electricians and the low voltage guys. You know, who's installing them? Well, we'll give you this community, but then you're going to get this community. All right, well, when I'm running low voltage wire, you need to give me drops to the windows, and then the electrician puts in the low voltage items. So it's a great point.
Doesn't that come back to, though, who owns the design? Who does if you own the design, if you leave the design to a trade contractor that has a vested interest, then it's going to be a fight, right? But if you guys own the design and you may be sourcing the design from integrators, but it's your design, that puts you in a position to make the calls on who's doing it instead of being at the mercy of who's doing it because they did the design work. Is that right? Is that accurate?
Yeah, we don't want to own it. I mean, Justin leads their sales team. We use a company. You talked with Paul at Atera. We'd rather have an agnostic third party design.
Yeah.
And work on the behalf of HVAC, the framers, the electricians, the low voltage, and we kind of wash our hands from it because they're the experts that are integrating that process with all the trades.
But you're in control of that design. You have third parties that develop it for you.
Correct.
But then you're administering that design will be implemented. Is that accurate?
Correct. Because that design goes to everybody. It goes to our MPO group. It goes to our, all the trades that are impacted. It goes to our field staff, our sales team. We match it up with our Salesforce system when we're generating the contracts. So it's really that whole universe of the process.
Frank, did you want to get in here? You're making a lot of head movements. So let's.
Well, our piece of it is more on infrastructure for the whole community as opposed to in the home.
Yeah. But you have so much experience in the home itself. So I'm
absolutely.
interested in your perspective. You're a former custom integrator, et cetera.
Well, all this rings true, and it's great to see this is actually a discussion at an event like this, because 15 years ago when we were working in the Southeast in this business, it was hard to get this conversation on the table with a lot of our builder contacts. So I think we've come a long way. The fact that it's formalized and we're having this discussion is evidence of progress.
It's a straw man to formalization. We ain't there yet, right? This is just like the stalking horse.
Well, for Dish, stapling cable on the outside of your home. Don't know if that's what the customer's expectation were when they bought.
That's right.
Is that unaesthetic design?
It's
That's
just,
a great example of that. Yeah.
hey, it's running right down your eave. It looks great.
Nobody wants zip ties on
But
their
You
downspout.
custom color that stuff though now, right?
No,
Can't you
we work with the builder and the
do
integrator
a
to
nice
make sure
mint
it's
green cable? No?
all in the wall now.
Okay.
In the wall.
All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, it'd be like the electricians running an extension cord down the side of the home.
Right. Nobody wants that.
This is the idea of the trade collaboration captured here, and I think this is some process steps. One is, kind of go to your merchandise plan, and you can't engineer everything, right? So it's your standard, it's your options that you think you're going to have a 50% or better take rate on is what I'm throwing out there. That presumes that you actually have a concept of what your take rates will be on. You actually can set some goals on take rates on that, which I think you can do because you're tracking take rates historically and you've got an idea of what's going to sell. Not every builder out there, but let's say we did that work and we have a good educated guess as to which things are going to sell well based on consumer demand and us having a strong offer. That's the stuff that needs to be ID'd for design and engineering.
Well, the other thing on take rates is you have to take a look. I mean, you have to demonstrate the ROI on it and the profit per home. And so to say as a builder, hey, we're going to give 20% of total low voltage and electrical to a third party company, well, how do you make that up? And what we saw is the revenue just jumped extremely high. And so when you take a look at those metrics, I think most builders would find out you're making more money by investing that time up front, doing the engineering, than afterwards. And then the other thing that we talked about earlier, it's the rework, where the customer said, I didn't know. And if they're looking at an engineered plan, well, they did know. It's better than the pen and paper, 60 inches above finished floor.
Yeah. So other points in here is get those cutoff dates established. Understand what the dates for finalizing orders are in terms of you being able to acquire product and actually I know that that's a moving target right now in almost every trade sector, but to the best of your ability to set that stuff. Just point 3 here, your tech integrator subcontractor should be part of your key subcontractor trade team. I hope everybody who's at this event feels that way. I'm sure that not every builder feels that way. I feel, like tech integrator has been second-class citizens, and we just need to elevate them alongside the other contractors. Hold a kickoff planning meeting with all of the affected parties. I'm proposing 60 to 75 minutes. As a lot of this is motherhood and apple pie. It's just like establish the importance, say there will be order and we will resolve issues, set up communications channels, and then just stay on top of it, of the team that's working on it. And I think that's important, is that the builder stay on top of all of the trades that need to collaborate for this to work, because the tech trade can't be in isolation. That's what we're saying. From a design perspective, it needs to be a layer, but it also needs to be integral with the other trades in order for us to get that right. So that's the kind of the production planning.
Which takes you back to the engineered designs. If you've got the engineered designs, you've allocated what needs to be handled by which trade contractor.
Yep.
Everybody knows what their part of the job is.
Yep.
And more importantly, your construction managers know what each one of those trade contractors' job is, because it's detailed in the engineering documents.
Yep.
So they know who needs to be called in to get these things resolved, rather than fighting over, is it the low volt guy or the high volt guy or whatever that was supposed to fix that, who do we call, right? If you've got that pre-engineering done already, they've got it in their hands, they know exactly which contractors are responsible for which part of the project.
Yep. Frank, I got a message from the AV desk that your microphone is upside down.
Oh. Thank you, AV Desk.
All right. I'm going to skip this slide. So I mentioned Sean. Sean actually did work in Louisville with some of the builders, and you were part of that panel. And I wanted to take some of this concept work and just show it as an example of what an integrator could do. He put together a kind of a design scheme for a high volume builder for a community of about 125 homes. That's the scope of the products. These are samples of the engineering drawings that would be generated based on the packages, standard and otherwise, that would be offered with the different models in the homes. I wanted to show this because we were talking about sell-through. The AV category is one where a lot of folks feel like they could just buy it at retail. But when you have engineering drawings like this, where you could see what's behind the walls, that the sound fields and the vision fields have been thought through, now you're cooking with gas. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but
No, I think it's important. Those are the points that allow the sell-through with the builder versus them saying, yeah, just put wire in my walls and I'll deal with it after the fact because it's costing me more money. Yeah. But if it's pre-engineered and this is sitting there in front of their face and they see all the details that are put into making it happen, they get that they're paying an upcharge for it because you can't get that from Best Buy.
Yep.
Well, and the good thing to do is show them pictures of people that put a rack in a closet with 50 cable trunk line going into it,
Sure.
the heat that it produces, but hey, we put it on wheels so you can move it around if you need to organize your closet. I mean, that's what, we're doing that today, right? All of us. the next evolution is you have to identify those locations. It's respect to the other trades that you're looking at in the initial design of the home, which starts well before you build anything.
Yeah. I think these are other design areas where you can show the consumer value, right? It's like Wi-Fi. We keep talking about you need high quality Wi-Fi with wireless access points and things like the Luxel tracking so that people are getting the strongest signal available. You got to show that, right? And so like these heat maps are, I think, a good selling tool, and they're a good implementation tool. The other drawing there is camera zones. So everybody thinks that they're their own camera installer. Not everybody is strategic about the sight lines and how to integrate all that stuff from a surveillance or just observation standpoint. So that's, showing expertise and value for camera zones. And so here is the scope of work. There's actually, Sean wrote me a proposal to Galante Custom Homes, which does not exist and will never exist, because I just want to talk about what you guys do. I don't want to do it. Because I grew up with a father who used cedar shims to fix it was duct tape or cedar shims. That's my limitation. So I don't want to do it. But he wrote this to Galante Custom Homes. Here's the scope of work, right? So there's a lot of stuff in here. There's the determination of what the packages would be based on the target market, the merchandising and marketing deliverables, what goes into the model home, the options packages, coordination with interior design, contractor requirements for all these folks that need to be collaborated with, a project management piece. So this is design and engineering from a company that also does installation, but they're not going to do the install nationally, right? So, but they will project manage, they will help the builder select the job site labor and subcontractors who can actually do the work. And there's the pricing on it. So there's an hourly rate of $200 for someone like Sean at the partner level, and $100 to $150 per hour for the Bravas staff. And then these estimated prices within that scope of work. So it's like, oh my God, $26,000. Well, that would be stupid if it was one home, right? But if you're spreading this over 125 homes, it's $208 per home. And if you could make an additional $2,500 in option sales and you're bringing 30% of that down to the bottom line, you're going to make $100,000 more on that community. And you're also saving on rework. So this is a prototype, unproven proposal and ROI justification, but I think it's in the vicinity of what the ROI would be. And we need to do more work I don't know whether you're doing this sort of analysis, Ron?
So the analysis that they gave is actually pretty accurate, but it does not take into consideration how much your sell-throughs, your additional packages can create. There's a small amount that he has in there for that.
He's got 2,500.
Yeah, and I can tell you that our average is more like 15 to 20,000 on
a high volume home?
On a high volume home. We're averaging somewhere between 15 and 20,000. Some of them are $2,000. They're pretty small on upgrade.
This is about lift beyond. If you didn't do the design and engineering, you'd get 2% is basically what Sean was saying. And if you did the design and engineering, you'd be more in the 3 to 5% range. And for kind of modestly priced, I think these are like $500,000 homes that he was looking at. He's looking at an additional 2,500, which is chump change.
No, that's a good value, and it's a good opportunity to. And I think that if you have the right engineering and you have the right low voltage contractor that's handling your upgrades, or you've got a really good sales team, some builders are doing it internally. Some builders are bringing in a low voltage contractor to do those walkthroughs with a client to do the upgrade sales. Depending on who's doing that, you can absolutely blow right through those numbers and create a significant amount of additional profit.
The other thing, by what we found out by using a third party, they give you market rate. So, as builders, we get a cost from a trade and then we put a margin on it, whatever that margin is, 30, 40, 50% from a builder. But are you setting the margin on the proper amount? And, what our third-party company helped us understand is, hey, you're charging way too less for this item, way too much for that item, and then you start getting into what we talked about as take rates. So then you can balance out, because really what you're looking at is revenue per transaction. What's my revenue per home? Not revenue on the community, per home. And when you're getting great information from your partners, it makes you more profitable as a builder.
Yeah.
That's also a moving target, right?
Oh, yeah.
Prices of categories and items
They
change.
shift all the time.
Every CES, reset.
What do you feel about, is this a good, I'm not asking about the specific numbers, but does it look like a good scope of work and a good basic analysis on the ROI?
I think it's excellent.
Yeah.
I think we're paying too much.
Of
Justin, we're
course,
gonna call
of course.
No, I think it's excellent, and it's good knowing the numbers going into it, because it's hard to sell to your team, hey, we're going to try this, it should work.
Yeah.
But when you have the experience of Bravas coming in and really guiding builders through the process, it makes it much easier to adopt.
What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things that maybe needs to be added to this is not to underestimate the importance of training of the sales team. Even if there's a third-party integrator that's going to largely be responsible for managing the upgrade process, I think the folks that are in the model home that are making that first contact with the buyers have to be able to tell the story of how tech in the home can really improve their lifestyle. Yep. And my experience with most salespeople is they're comfortable doing that, talking about a cabinet upgrade or a backsplash upgrade, but they're intimidated as hell to talk about tech. So we've got to get them comfortable with that, and we've got to get them able to tell stories around the use cases where technology can really help the buyer.
Yeah, I don't know how rigorous he's talking about going here, but in the project discovery summary of bullets there, he's got marketing elements of included systems and sales training and model home demo scripting. So there's light forms of that and there's rigorous forms of that, and you guys do a lot of that stuff, but I think there's a recognition of it, and whether this is realistic pricing for what you're looking for or not is a kind of an open question. All right, we got to keep going. I'm going to skip these slides and I'm going to hand this to Frank, who's going to talk about less of the premises, but more about design and engineering that's community-wide.
Yeah, thanks, John. A couple of years ago, Dish got involved, which started off as a multifamily project called Dish Fiber. And the idea was to take our expertise in bulk video and bring it to connectivity. And it's no surprise, this is a precursor to Dish's future business in 5G wireless, getting involved in multifamily and single-family home neighborhoods. But Dish Fiber is our way of bringing a dedicated fiber circuit to a community, the entire node, right? 2 gig circuit, 6 gig circuit, even 10 gig circuits. We're working on a project in Austin right now where we're bringing a 10 gig circuit for a 70 home community. And the concept is bulk, right? It's treating connectivity as a utility as opposed to an option that a homeowner would select from a series of service providers in your area that you've done a deal with, probably a revenue sharing deal, and they're going to come in and put some infrastructure in. Well, in a case like this, service provider comes in and puts in the infrastructure, brings the circuit, and actually installs networking equipment in every home, in every common area, and every outdoor space. So this is bulk, and it's very popular in multifamily, and it's becoming more popular in single-family home, particularly build to rent, where residents will move in and connectivity has already been taken care of for them. It's not something they need to shop with a local service provider. So the point of this, though, the reason why I'm on this panel is because we do quite a bit of design and engineering up front with our clients and prospects. And so I guess I'm in charge of the slides.
You got it.
This is an example of a community we're working on right now where we'll take the electrical plans, the site plans, and we will build our trenching and infrastructure plan, to coordinate with the utility plan that the builder and the site leader is working on. The time to put fiber in the ground is when you're putting other utilities in the ground, and there's a lot of ways to do it, right? You could do active fiber, you could do GPON, location of MDF and IDF, so they're going to be indoors or outdoors, you know, or you're going to have vaults in the ground at every cul-de-sac. So we'll get really into the weeds with our partners to design this. This is long before a commitment is ever made, by the way.
And those acronyms are all about network infrastructure items and repeaters and stuff?
Different ways of running fiber in a
Gotcha.
neighborhood or
Okay.
a multifamily property.
Sounds cool.
And so we've got, you know, this is a new area for a video provider. So we've got a staff of network engineers. These are a group of designers. These are things that we had never done before on the connectivity side. And it's a really nice collaboration. We work with IT directors of large property owners. We work with builders and developers. We work with HOA boards, you know, in some cases. So it's really been a great collaboration, and it helps to move this type of a change in infrastructure strategy forward with communities. This is an example of what our head end looks like. So something like this is going to live in your clubhouse or your leasing office, right? That's a new thing for a lot of operators who haven't operated in a bulk connectivity situation before. So this is all engineered and communicated, you know, up front, in many cases before construction ever begins. There are heating and cooling implications. There are power implications. Some of the things that this group has talked about before. All this is discussed, you know, way in advance, and we've got qualified staff who can speak to this with people on the other side of the table. You know, these are all the different types of pieces of equipment. All this is discussed in detail. You know, if you want to have connectivity at the pickleball court or the hiking trail, we can do it. But what's the cost impact? What's the resident benefit going to be there? What's the infrastructure that we may have to pull, you know, when that trench is open? We may have to do some additional trenching. All that can be discussed. This is an example of heat mapping that we'll also do. One of the benefits of doing bulk connectivity is that all the access points on a property, this is a multifamily example, will work together as opposed to fighting with each other because they're different providers using different radios. In a managed situation, they all work together. And you can provide seamless coverage for residents as they move around a property. They still stay connected to their home network, even if it's a large community. So that's one of the benefits. But we'll do this, and this is a network engineering task that we'll do for our partners. Why would a property want to do this? Well, because when you have property-wide connectivity, it opens the doors for some really great advanced applications, right? That can really take a community and elevate it into, you know, modern connectivity and connected living. One of those applications is one that we include with Dish Fiber, which is called OnStream. And it's a video application where we take our expertise in satellite and we convert it to streaming, and we put it out there to all the residents, and we allow the community to customize it, similar to what you'd see if you turned your TV on in a nice hotel like the Hyatt across the street. It's customized for the property. This is just one community example that you can layer on top of.
Are there revenue sharing opportunities?
Absolutely, right? And some people want to upgrade, so there's always an upgrade plan, there's an upgrade path, and we let our
Is
partners.
it like activation revenue opportunity, or is it a recurring revenue opportunity?
Activation, right? But we get that question a lot, as you might imagine. This is an example of a common area at a property we just finished a month ago, where this video application could be available at a pool deck, right? And there's extensive Wi-Fi coverage. When you do infrastructure this way, there's no guest net for residents. Residents stay connected to their home network throughout the property, and there's massive benefits to that. So it's one of the reasons to do it. But doing something like this requires collaboration up front. This is not an after-the-fact type of situation.
Do they have a private connection even though they're ranging across this public network?
Yes, we call it shared key, and it allows residents to stay connected throughout a property. So
That's pretty cool. So the builder, you're either working with a developer that owns the right of way on all this stuff, or builder developers that own right of way. If it's municipally controlled, you're out of the game. Is that right?
That's right. So when it comes to single-family neighborhoods, on the video part, we can't cross a public right-of-way. But on the connectivity side, we can. So it's different jurisdictions. The point of all this is lean on your service providers to provide design and engineering support to your project up front. And it's not just surface level marketing. We really get in deep and provide our.
And do you get in early with the connectivity so that even as the community is underdeveloped, the builders, selling centers and such can be supported with high-speed internet access?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's one of the major selling points. Thank you, John.
Where's my $20? Can I? All right, that's cool. Frank always has something cool to add. Nice. So this is the challenge match. I invited Brett on this. I mean, I think they've been such a leader on the builder services side of things and the process supports. And a lot of the focus has been on merchandise selection and the marketing and sales and sell-through piece. But I'm just curious that as you see, I think what I would call budding interest in the design and engineering side of things, is it a place where NICE could figure out a way to add process supports in this area as well? I mean, I know I'm still waiting for an introduction and an invitation to visit the headquarters in northern Italy. But your parent company does a lot of design and engineering on the commercial space side of things and perimeter access control and stuff, and I just don't know whether this is something that might be in NICE's future in some shape or form.
Yeah, globally, especially in Europe, that's a big part of what we do there, and delivering systems that with full engineering design.
Yeah.
Here, a lot of what we do already is in place. We're kind of just getting down to a little more details to enhance it and formalize it, because we already engineer systems for the integrators and the builders. We design packages, and they're all tested, by our field team and executed on. We know they work and they're robust. So all of that is kind of just already in place. It's really about and we even have kickoff meetings when we get the builder, the integrator, everybody in place, and we get into the little details, what specific door lock you're using, all the way down to the color, model, confirming model numbers, and making sure that that compatibility is going to be there. So I think for us, the next thing, especially as we are moving more and more into multifamily, and we have project managers there that are already involved in design processes, moving into this high vol space is a no-brainer for us, I think.
Cool. Ron, you won an award for design and engineering services last night. So, I mean, I think we've heard a lot of your commentary, but is there anything you want to add about TDA's future in this space? It's a budding interest area for you, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, so we've been an integrator, well, I've been an integrator for 40 years, but as a team, this company, 11 years, we're all over the Western US, but we're not everywhere in the country. However, we've started offering our design and engineering services the same as Bravis has, in that we can design and engineer your community and your homes and your options and your packages and everything else, and you can work with a local integrator, and we can help you in finding the right people to work with in your particular community. We've spent most of our careers being the integrator, being the designer and the engineer and the integrator, and we're now expanding those services so that we can provide you the design and engineering and the help in finding somebody else as your integrator, or maybe it's your electrician, or maybe whatever it happens to be, and helping to get them into a position to make you successful.
Very cool. So this evening, Ron's actually hosting this showroom tour. You're about 7-8 miles away from the convention center. We've got transportation planned. I'm just making this invitation to integrators. If sponsors, they have to talk to Ron and get special permission on the sponsor side of things. But all the builders are welcome to attend that, and we're still taking signups at our information booth. So. Do you want to hype that at all? What do you got?
Yeah, no, it's realistically, it's an opportunity for people to take a look at some of the technologies that are available that maybe you're not seeing. In our case, in our showroom, we work really hard on hidden technologies and things that can make your build just smoother and make your clients happier, because nobody likes to see technology, they just want it all to work. So we're giving an opportunity for people to take a look at some of that stuff.
And
while
there'll
we're-
be refreshments and stuff.
yeah, we'll definitely have refreshments and food both.
Refreshments are a good thing.